latest edition of Facebook Live. To those of you that are watching live, welcome. To those that are watching on the recorded broadcast, thanks for watching. My name is Sergeant Jim Monroe. In just a second here, we're going to have Corporal John Weaver, who's the supervisor of our traffic unit. We'll be answering all of your traffic-related questions. By the time we're done, you'll know everything you need to know about traffic, especially with back to school coming. He'll have some good pointers and some good rules of the road to follow next week with Clovis Unified going back. Before we get started, though, we have two exciting things we want to talk about. The first one is Clovis Night Out. Clovis Night Out is coming up in less than a month now. It's September 17th. It's going to be at Sierra and Temperance at the Sierra Meadows Park. This is our 6th year doing Clovis Night Out, and it's going to be the absolute biggest that we've had so far. We have over 100 boutique informational booths that are going to be there. We have over 15 food vendors. We have 5 acoustic guitar performers that are going to be there. We also have a live band, which is going to start at 6 p.m., and that's Lady and the Tramps. They're coming back again for the 6th year in a row. We will also have all of our fire trucks, police cars, garbage trucks, everything that the kids love out there, free bounce houses, and then kind of the cool thing this year, this is all sponsored and really a lot by Table Mountain Rancheria, which we appreciate their help putting Clovis Night Out because it's a lot of money to do. So thank you to them. At dark, we'll have a large fireworks display again out at the park, and that's what will cap the night off. We're really looking forward to it. We're expecting 10 to 15,000 people this year, and it's going to be an absolute awesome event. So mark your calendars, September 17th. It's a Saturday. The Bulldogs are away that weekend, so don't worry. You're not going to miss a home Fresno State game. We planned it that way on purpose. And it starts at 3 p.m. We're going to go 3 p.m. to dark. At dark, we'll have a fireworks display. That'll be the conclusion of the event, but we want you out there. We want your family out there. We'll have a lot of police officers in uniform, and you'll get to meet them, ask questions. And the whole reason we do this event is for community, to bridge that gap and build bridges between us, the police, and the community. So we hope to see you out there, September 17th. Next, before we get to Corporal Weaver, I just want to talk about one other exciting thing we have here. It's our Clovis PD app. So I'm going to show you. Hopefully we can get close enough to see. But if you haven't downloaded it yet and you have an Apple iPhone or an Android phone, this is for you. If you live in Clovis, or if you don't live in Clovis, download it. It's free. And basically what we did here is we brought the police department into one application that if you need something from us, you can most likely find it here. For instance, crime maps. You want to know what's going on in your neighborhood? This is the place to go. A click of a button, and you can automatically see right there what's going on. This is the last 30 days of information that has occurred in Clovis. So you can click on it and you can see exactly what it is. There was a theft in the 1100 block of Herndon, for example. So really good resource. There's a ton of other things you can do here too. The other thing we're really excited about is submitting a tip. So with your help, we solve a lot of crime here in Clovis. And this is just another avenue that you can connect with us and talk with us live. If something's going on in your neighborhood, whether it's a drug problem, an animal problem, a blight problem, whatever the case may be, you can always submit a tip by clicking Submit a Tip. It's going to show you all the different categories, and if you select one, you can anonymously report the tip to us, or you can leave your name. And the nice thing is if we need more information or if we want to let you know exactly what happened, through the app we can actually write you back and have a two-way conversation. Even if you want to be anonymous, we will never know who you are, but that's one of the really neat things about the tipping platform. So like I said, you can access all of our social media accounts through here. We have a directory, all of our YouTube videos, photographs from all the way back to the 1940s, the Clovis Police Department. So a really, really good resource. Megan's Law, graffiti. If you're going on vacation, this is vacation season, about ready to end next week with school going back in, but you can actually request a vacation house check through the app right here. Put in all your information. Our officers, our volunteers will come and check on your house. So with that, that is the Clovis PD app available. It's Clovis Police Department Mobile on Android and iOS. Search for it. It's free. Download it. We want you to have it. Let us know if you like it or not, and send us some tips. We are only successful with your help. And if you send us the tips, it's going to be even better. So with that, I am going to go ahead and turn it over to Corporal John Weaver, who's sitting right here over my left shoulder here. He's going to answer all your questions, traffic related. He's going to be joined by CSO Ty Wood, who's going to help him out as well. And thanks for tuning in. We'll see you soon. All right, John, it's all you.
Good evening, Clovis. While Ty or Jim are wrapping some things up on the back side of the camera, I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. I have been with the Clovis Police Department since 1985. I am roughly just a few months into my 31st year here and winding down my career. I basically worked patrol for the first 20 years of my time here. I worked investigations for a few years with a specific interest in crimes against people, specifically sex crimes against children. Kind of burned out on that. Went back to patrol, joined the motor unit in 2005, and I've been working for the motor unit now for that entire time. Roughly 2010, 2011, I took over as a quasi-supervisor. 2 years ago, I was promoted to corporal, where I became the full-time supervisor. And since that entire time, I've thoroughly enjoyed myself. Working as a traffic officer for the city of Clovis is probably one of the best jobs I've had. The best times I've had have been riding a motorcycle. I really enjoy traffic. Many people ask me, is it the writing the tickets? What is it? It's just meeting the people. It's not writing the tickets. A lot of people think that's what a motor officer's job is, but it's not. We work strictly on education. And that's the best part of the job, is just talking to the public and educate them. And that's what we're doing here tonight. There's a lot of questions that we're fielding regarding back to school. Next week, starting Monday the 22nd, Clovis Unified goes into session. We are going to have full force our traffic unit. Believe it or not, there's 4 motors and 1 traffic car. We'll be out every single day, pretty much from 6 in the morning until 6 o'clock at night, hitting all 31 schools within the boundaries of the city of Clovis. This is a time, if you have the questions, to ask. Everybody always asks about speeds, crosswalks, cell phones. Ask your questions. I'll do the best I can to answer them. Pretty much it's cut and dried. Nothing has changed in regards to the laws. But whatever question you have, I'll be glad to happy. I'll be more than happy to answer those for you.
Sounds good. We're going to start off the first question. Can you explain a little bit about what the requirements are for children in child safety seats for vehicles?
That is probably one of the most asked questions other than school zones. The city of Clovis currently we have 12 car seat technicians available. We're going to be increasing that to 16. Basic requirements, because it does get into some detail, but basically, if a child is under the age of 8 years old, it has to be secured either in a car seat or booster seat, and it must be secured in the rear seat of the vehicle. There is no ands, ifs, or buts about it. That is very serious to us. That's something we take very seriously. There is no warnings. There is no slack. Your child, to you, is a very precious gift. We take responsibility to making sure that gift stays with you for pretty much your lifetime. Now, when you get to the child that's over 8 but under 16, they must be in a authorized child passenger restraint system. So we're talking a booster seat, a seat belt for a vehicle seat belt, but only if it fits the child. There is a whole process to make sure that your child fits into your car seat or into your seat belt safely in your vehicle. And we have classes we put on. We put on seminars. We have out at Farmers Market for the last 2 weeks now. We've actually had some of our technicians going out and answering those questions and showing people how to seat belt their child in safely. There's another one this Friday. Getting into the car seats can really get a lot of people confused. The best thing I can recommend now is if your child is under the age of 8, put them into a child safety seat. There is no ands, ifs, or buts about it. If they're under the age of 16, make sure they're belted in safely. Any other questions, you can come out to Farmers Market, ask our technicians. They'll even help you, give you some pointers to installing your seats in your car. They won't install them for you, but they'll give you some pointers on how to get those into your car safely.
Sounds good. We've already gotten a couple questions from Pam and Sue. Probably one of the most popular questions and maybe a point of confusion is everyone sees these 25-mile-an-hour school zone speed limits, and it says when children are present. Can you explain a little bit about that, when it's enforced, and when people actually have to go 25 miles an hour?
This time of year, and pretty much the entire school year, that is a question that I get called on. I get lots of calls in my office regarding that. There really shouldn't be any confusion. When the school starts, which is anytime after 7 a.m. for some schools, when those children are present, they're walking to school, they're riding their bikes. That means they're present alongside the roadway. They're on a sidewalk. They're in front of the schools. That's when their speed limit needs to be 25 miles an hour. The best way I can describe school districts, and I will use Buchanan as an example. It is a fairly large complex, 3 schools, pretty much all the way around. Every single road is 25, but no more than a quarter to a half mile in length on those roadways that actually cross any of those 4 corners. Are people safe to drive 40 miles an hour, which is the posted speed limit, after 9 a.m.? Most certainly. But at any time, you could have a school bus dropping kids off late for school. You could have 4 or 5 kids coming home or going from their house to school at 9:05 because for whatever reason they're late. That's children present. Now that speed limit's 25. So I tell people the best thing you can do to avoid any confusion, if it's 10 o'clock in the morning and you're on your way somewhere and you know that's a school coming up, go 25 miles an hour. It's a matter of about a 30-second time difference between 40 and 25 miles per hour. You're going to save the life of the child. You're going to afford, or you cannot afford the speeding ticket that goes with violating the 25.
Exactly.
And then once you're out of the school zone, which is typically about 500 feet past that school coming in prior, it's 500 feet prior to coming into the school zone, 500 feet after the school zone, and then you can pick your speed back up.
Yeah.
There's a lot of schools that they're really confused because they just don't get it. And I just tell them, just stay 25 between the hours of 7 and 4 in the afternoon, and you're going to be pretty safe.
And it's always better to be safe than sorry.
Exactly.
Have another question. Can you explain the crosswalk law? There's been a couple questions. Misty asked one, but it was one of our set questions. When must you yield to a pedestrian in a crosswalk?
Crosswalk laws, there's several of them for both marked and unmarked. For the marked crosswalks, before a pedestrian steps into the crosswalk, off a sidewalk, into the roadway, it must do so safely. That means that if there's a car coming at 25 miles an hour and that car is 50 feet away, that pedestrian can't step off the curb and force you to hit your brakes, lock up your car to avoid striking them. They still have to yield to the vehicle, which is still considered a hazard. That vehicle has the right of way on the roadway, and what you're doing is, by coming up to that crosswalk, you're going to ask that vehicle for permission. I know it kind of sounds silly, but as I have told, I've tried to teach my children, if you step out in front of a vehicle, you're going to lose. There's really no way around that. It's better to wait, see the car down the roadway. If you feel it's safe to cross, then go ahead and step out and cross. If there's any doubt in your mind that you can make it safely, or what if I run across, I think I can beat that car, don't do it. Just wait till the car comes through. Now, once you've already crossed into that crosswalk and here comes a vehicle, that vehicle now has to yield to you in the crosswalk.
That makes sense.
The majority of schools in the Clovis area have crossing guards, and those crossing guards have all been instructed and been well taught that they lead with the stop sign. They wait till traffic clears enough. They lead with the stop sign, and they will step out, step to the center of the roadway, hold up the stop sign, and get traffic to stop first, and then call the children across. That is something that has been in place now for about the last 3 or 4 years. It's been working with great success versus the old time where the crossing guard would step out with the sign held up, the stop sign, and have right on the heels of the crossing guard, like little ducks, 20 kids walking out. Well, it doesn't take too much for somebody to be talking on their cell phone, distracted, not paying attention, and then we have a tragedy on our hands. The best thing I can tell you is if you're in a school zone and you know you're coming up to a crosswalk, slow down. If you're coming up to an intersection and you have somebody that's crossing with the green light, you got to yield that pedestrian. That pedestrian owns the roadway, basically. He owns that intersection until they get across safely.
It also sounds like the pedestrians have to do their due diligence and not just, like you said, step out into traffic without looking as well.
Correct.
Speaking of pedestrians in the roadway, Larry has a question about jaywalking. Can you explain the law of jaywalking and when someone is considered to be jaywalking across the street?
Jaywalking is a very narrow band. The only time you can be in violation of the jaywalking law is when you're between two controlled intersections, and those are light controlled intersections. So I will use the intersection of Shaw Avenue between Peach and Silmar. You have a traffic light at each intersection with no cross streets in between. No cross streets, no alleyways. You have driveways, but those don't count. You have to have a street or an alleyway or a public alleyway. You cross there if you're going from Big Lots or Taco Bell or A&W and you're going across to I Love Sushi, you're going across the Chevron, you're going to receive a citation for jaywalking. You can't cross there. The City of Clovis only has about 3 or 4 actual jaywalking locations. We do keep an eye on those. Majority of people that we have stopped have not just, they just didn't know. They were just taking the shortcut to get to the bus. We work with them. We try to educate them on that. But it has to be 2 light-controlled intersections. It's very specific.
And then our recommendation obviously would be do your best to cross at an intersection where there's a crosswalk. Even if it isn't necessarily jaywalking, we want them to be as safe as possible.
Yes.
Okay, that makes sense. Someone had a question in regards to bike laws. Patrick asked if he's riding a bike, they need to ride on the side of the street that flows the same direction that they are. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, they cannot ride against traffic?
No.
Okay.
California Vehicle Code specifies a bicycle as a vehicle, not a motor vehicle, but as a vehicle. And in such, it is required to follow the same laws as a motor vehicle, which means it has to drive on the right side of the roadway with the flow of traffic. Pedestrians can't walk on the roadway, but it is suggested for pedestrians to walk against traffic, not in the roadway, but like on the sidewalk so you can see those cars coming. But for bicycles, you must ride with the flow of traffic. And the best way I can describe or give you a reason why is if you're riding against traffic, you're riding the wrong way, and I will again use Shaw Avenue. So if you're driving eastbound in the westbound lanes and you come up to Lowe's, and you have a car pulling out of Lowe's that's making a right turn because that's basically the only direction it can go, the driver isn't worried about traffic coming from the west to the east because there's a center divider. He's worrying about eastbound traffic, so he's looking to his left. If you're coming from his right, he's not going to see you. You've got bushes, you've got other congestion around there, and when he sees traffic is clear, he may glance quickly to his right, make sure there's no pedestrians in the crosswalk. Meanwhile, you're still about 25 feet down the roadway, out of his vision. He thinks roadway's clear, he makes his right turn, and there's a collision. You're on the wrong side of the road, and you will be held accountable. You'll be found at fault for the accident because you're driving against traffic.
Okay. This next question comes up sometimes sarcastically, sometimes not. Kelly wants to know, do traffic officers have quotas for the month?
We get asked that all the time. I've heard the word quotas, performance objectives, goals. No, we don't have that. Other agencies, I can't speak for them. Here, my guys are told to go out and educate the public, however they need to do it. If you write 10 tickets, that's your discretion. If you write no tickets and you make 20 vehicle stops and you've educated 20 people, that's the goal we're after. It's an education. The people that I have contacted, there's been some days I go out and I may stop 10 vehicles and give 10 warnings. And there are some days I may go out and give 5 and 5. I may give 10 citations. Every situation is different. Would I give a warning to somebody who's doing 50 miles an hour in a school zone? Definitely not. Would I give a warning to somebody who is from the state of Arizona or Florida, where their cell phone laws are different? He's here visiting. He's not sure exactly what the cell phone law is, but he's talking on it. Would I issue him a citation? No, I'm going to educate him about the California laws.
Okay.
So there's no quotas. It's all about education.
Okay, you brought up the cell phone law for California, and I know sometimes there's a little bit of confusion about that. Can you briefly describe what it means to be hands-free while talking on a cell phone?
The easy way to do it, and we run into this too a lot. We have, everybody always does the I was on my speakerphone, and when we say, or when they tell me speakerphone, I ask them, was your phone in your hand? And I will use my phone as an example. And usually what we see is this.
All the time.
All the time. And this is how they're driving. They're going, but I was on my speakerphone. And I said, so I'll ask them, okay, was the phone in your hand? Yes. It's called the hands-free law, not the I was on my phone speakerphone.
Correct.
Then I follow that up with, do you know what the difference is between holding it to your ear and holding it in front of your face? And usually they say no, and I said it's about that much, and almost $200 for a cell phone ticket. You can't hold it in your hand. Hands-free is hands-free. We do have a tendency to give warnings on people. There are some things that will allow you to keep your phone in your hand, and it's why you're in the act of calling an emergency medical provider, or you're calling 911. I've stopped people that say, but I was calling my dentist to verify an appointment, so I'm talking to my emergency medical provider. Next follow-up question to that is, how come you just didn't pull over and make your phone call? You passed like 9 parking lots. How come you didn't pull over? I didn't have time. That kind of steps from the education to the citation, because it's going to be something that's going to be a recurring thing. So
Okay.
The best thing I can recommend to people is when you get in your car, throw it in the center console, put it on vibrate, and be on your way. And when you get to the next parking lot, check your messages, check your text messages, and then handle it when they're there. We catch one of my motor officers. He sits across from Sierra Vista Mall. That's his biggest place to sit, and he catches probably about 90% of his cell phone violators coming out of Sierra Vista Mall talking on their cell phones. And his question is, you were just in the parking lot, you were in a parking stall, how come you didn't complete your phone call then? And it was, but I'm going to here, and I didn't think you'd catch me. You got caught, and once again, his discretion on what gets done.
Okay. I want to say thank you to the countless people that are commenting about supporting law enforcement in general, that they back the blue and whatnot. It's not forgotten. We do really appreciate it. Our officers see those on a daily and a weekly basis, so thank you very much. Keep those coming. It does not go unnoticed. Gary has a very good question in regards to a school bus. Same reason that we're doing this Ask a Traffic Officer the week before we do back to school. Can you explain a little bit about a school bus pulls over on the side of the road, their red lights start, and students are either exiting or loading onto the bus. When do vehicles have to stop on that roadway?
And we're starting to see more and more of this, actually more and more violations. What happens is the school bus will come up to it, stop, and pull over. And I know a lot of people, I get a lot of complaints from people. They insist that the bus driver wait until they're right at the back of the bus and then turn the flashing red lights on and throw the stop sign out. Most of the bus drivers, their goal is to get the child across safely. They're not going to set people up to be in violation of the law. There's always cameras on the buses. The drivers are under the scrutiny of cameras on those buses, and something like that would be a red flag to any school district that has those systems or those flashing lights on the buses. But to get to the question, once traffic is clear or cars are far enough back, the bus driver will not only activate the red flashing lights, but will operate, also flick out what's a folding stop sign that will come out and will also flash red. Once that stop sign comes out and those lights flash, you are required to come to a stop. It's just a stop sign. stop far enough back from the bus or far enough forward of the bus if you're coming the opposite direction, stop. And you have to wait until that stop sign and those flashing lights go off. Just because there's no kids crossing does not mean you can continue on or pass it. Kids have a tendency, as I know and everybody else knows, they dart and go. They come around the front of the bus and their goal is to get home because it's 3 o'clock and it's time for a snack, and they're not watching for cars. They've gotten off that bus 200 times prior to it and there has been a problem, so 201, they step out and somebody's not paying attention.
Okay.
The little twist of this law is if there is a center divider, a dedicated center divider. So if a bus was to stop on Shaw Avenue and it's going westbound and it were to stop and those flashing red lights come on, opposing traffic that would be going eastbound does not have to stop because there's a dedicated center divider there.
Because it's a raised median,
Because
correct?
it's a raised median, correct.
Okay.
Very few buses stop on roadways where there's raised medians for that reason. They don't want to take the chance they'll actually pull around a corner onto a different street that doesn't have that raised median, so the children are actually afforded the entire roadway to cross safely.
That makes sense. Deb Meyer has a question regarding bicycle helmets. She asks, number one, are they mandatory for bicycles riding in traffic or just around the neighborhood, and is there an age limit?
The age limit is under 18.
Okay.
And we do enforce it. Come school time, we are heavily enforcing it. I know I've received a lot of comments from people, a lot of parents, a lot of kids think that it's we're picking on them. And my response back is, would you rather have me stop your child and educate them, either with a citation or teach them about the law, and have them live another day, or look at the child, ignore it, continue on, and then have that child step out in the traffic and get injured? But yes, all children under the age of 18 must wear a helmet. It has to be properly fitted, it has to be properly fastened. The driving around with the helmet on the head with the chin straps hanging loose, flopping in the wind, will probably get a lecture. It may not get a citation. We do have some officers are very strict. If it's not snapped, you're going to receive a citation. But for the most part, 99% of the officers out here will be a little lenient on that. They'll just educate the child, making sure that it's snapped and fitted properly. But
Okay.
yes, it's something that if you're riding on the city street, you're going to get stopped and talked to if you're not a helmet. If you're riding on the school grounds, you're going to stop and get talked to about the helmet. If you're riding at Sierra Vista Mall, you're going to stop. But the only place I'm not going to stop and talk to you is if you're in your own driveway doing circles. But then again, I may stop and tell you, you know, you can fall off your bike and injure yourself just as much in your own driveway as you can on the asphalt.
Exactly.
Cement and asphalt are very unforgiving on a child's head.
Okay. That's again one of those things. It's better to be safe than sorry. Just like all of our live sessions, we have several questions that we don't get to because of time. We're almost running out, but we're going to ask just a few more. We've seen a lot more incidents where drivers are wearing earbuds or earphones. Can you go into that a little bit about what the requirements are, what they are allowed or not allowed to do in regards to having your ears covered with earbuds or earphones?
Earbuds and earphones, you're allowed to wear them, but you must keep one ear uncovered.
Okay.
In other words, the old style transistor radio earbuds where you just had the one, plug in the ear, as long as you have one ear uncovered, you're good. But with the cell phones and the earbuds that go with those, and then the Beats headphones that are wireless, we're starting to see more and more people put those on so they can listen to their music, and they're actually getting stopped and cited for that. For the most part, the public seems to be pretty receptive to it, but there are a few that are obstinate. We've had a couple of violators that have received several citations for the exact same thing, stating that it doesn't hinder them, they can hear. And our response is, well, could you hear somebody yell at you through your windows? If your windows are up, your air conditioner's on, and you've got your stereo set at 20 and it's in your ears and your ears are covered, could you hear that siren? Could you hear somebody say, hey, stop, look out for that child? That's the reason why. One is fine, two is a no-no.
Okay. We're running out of time. We're going to get to just a couple more questions. Renata wants to know if this Facebook Live video will be available after the fact. Yes, what will happen is within a little bit of time, Facebook will save it to our page and you can share it with whoever you want. If we don't get to your question, we will get to 100% of them in a written response to you. Again, there's a lot of people saying thank you for your assistance and whatnot. And one other question, can you explain a little bit, just briefly, because we're running out of time, about the move over law?
That is something that has come into effect within the last couple of years. You have a tow truck, you have an emergency vehicle, something that's on the side of the road. By law, you're required to, one, slow down and move over one lane and basically give 10, 15 feet of space to the vehicle that's parked on the side of the road. If it's safe to move over in that lane, you're okay. If it's not, then you really have to slow down. I tell people, absent of being rear-ended, take your speed down really slow, do the best you can, because you never know when an officer or a tow truck driver or an ambulance or a fireman are going to step out just enough with their gear to catch your mirror. It doesn't take too much. I have been brushed by a mirror, and it's a very frightening thing because a mirror at 40 miles an hour is enough to wake you up.
Oh, definitely.
And not to be off topic, the public is free. If you do have complaints or you do have issues out there that you would like answered, we do have our traffic hotline, 324-3400. We'll take you to our traffic hotline. So if you have a complaint or a suggestion, feel free. The public is free to call it, leave a voicemail. We do have an officer that his job is to answer any of the calls that come in. And we'll do the best to help you out once we get that message.
You can also contact us via the app, is that correct?
Yes.
Or also via our social media accounts. I'm usually the one who answers the questions, and I know you get a lot of emails from me when I'm trying to clarify or answer someone. So we will get to your questions regardless if it's a phone call, on the app, on Facebook or Twitter, or any other method. Travis wants to know, he has blue license plate. He has blue lights that illuminate his license plate on the rear of his vehicle. Is that legal?
No.
Okay.
This was a topic last week, and it was actually kind of brought up in a traffic officer meeting, and it was actually brought to our attention by one of our administrative personnel, and he just happened to ask about it. License plate lights are white only. You can't have blue-colored, orange-colored, red-colored lights facing to the front. You can only have red lights to the rear, or amber, which would be the turn signals. The only white light you can have to the rear of a vehicle is a license plate light, and it has to be shielded so it points down the license plate. But anything other than white, yellow, or red on a vehicle is illegal.
Okay, and that's another thing that they could utilize our traffic hotline or social media or the app is before they spend the money on a vehicle modification, they can ask us, and hopefully if it is illegal, we can save you some money on the equipment and a possible citation.
Many a time we've talked to people that they will happily walked into an auto parts store or they've ordered it online. Mm-hmm. They've spent hundreds and hundreds of dollars on a lighting system or a vehicle modification, and now they get the education through us via a fix-it ticket, whether it be to raise the vehicle, lower the vehicle, put the original headlights back on, tail lights, etc. So yeah, it's best if you have concerns before you spend that big money, give us a call. We'll answer that question for you.
We actually have an officer from Michigan, Drew Lauren. Thanks for watching, just giving you a shout out. We do have some comments on here that aren't questions that we that are possibly ongoing traffic-related issues. That's another reason to utilize our app, Clovis Police Department Mobile. You can give us a tip via a private Facebook message or a direct message on Twitter. Or like Corporal Weaver said, you can also utilize the traffic hotline at 324-3400, and that's available 24/7. You don't have to give your information, just let us know if you are complaining about a specific traffic-related issue. Try to give as many details as possible, such as days of the week, possible time frames. If it's one violator per se, maybe describe the vehicle in question. That way we can have a motor officer go out to that area and they're not spending hours there. They can take care of that issue and then move on to another one. We've had a couple other questions about double parking in school zones. And like you said, we will be out in force, not just officers, but our patrol community service officers issuing citations and warnings for parking violations, whether it's red zone, double parking, and things like that. One citizen wanted to know why it is so dangerous or illegal to double park, even if it is for a couple seconds.
You have to understand that you're actually blocking the roadway, which stacks up traffic. And now you're opening up your car door and you're allowing your child to get out of the safety of your vehicle and to step in the traffic. And it doesn't take too much for your child to open up the car door, step out, close the car door, and the car that's to your right, they haven't looked, and they go ahead and pull away, and not only do they collide with the front of your car because they're just not paying attention, but potentially they put your child pretty much the meat in the sandwich. It gets squished. Kids will walk around the front of the vehicle and somebody's looked back over their shoulder thinking you're stopped, and they roll forward because they're looking over their shoulder behind to make sure they clear the front of your car, and they strike a child. Double parking is a serious no-no for us. Okay. We have done enough for the last several years with trying to educate the public that now we're taking it beyond the education stage, and now we're going to take it into the enforcement stage where it's more of a zero tolerance. The schools are helping us out with that. They're actually putting people out, and they'll actually be calling, writing your license plates down and reporting them to us. So you may be getting a phone call or a visit at your home from one of us just to help you understand that you cannot be doing that.
Okay. Lisa wants to know if the traffic hotline is just for vehicle related or maybe teenagers with motorbikes. Yes, that is useful in that case as well, because it's a motorbike on a roadway, which makes it a vehicle, which is enforceable by the California Vehicle Code. So yeah, Lisa, if you do have specific information on that, go ahead and contact us via any of the way that we've already mentioned, and we will definitely take care of that for you. Dennis has a really good question, and this is a safety question in regards to CCW holders. For those who don't know, CCW is something that you get through the county sheriff's department or your local police department, and it allows you to carry a concealed firearm. Dennis wants to know, because he is a CCW holder, if he gets pulled over, is he required to immediately notify the officer that he has a weapon in the vehicle, or what you would prefer as being the officer of contact, what you would want him to do?
With the more and more people starting to carry concealed weapons, to me, I really appreciate when a driver tells me, when I first approach and I got their driver's license registration, and they will tell me, as they're reaching for their driver's license, my driver's license in my right hip pocket, I'm going to reach for it, that's fine. And as they're doing so, they'll let me know that they do have a concealed weapons permit and that in the center console is a weapon. Okay, thank you for telling me. What in the center console, is there anything in the center console you need to get? Is your registration, insurance in there? No, my insurance and registration is in my glove box. Okay, is there a weapon in there? No, there's not. Okay, feel free to go ahead and do that. Just do not open your center console. And then they'll probably need their license and their CCW permit, and then I will take care of business from there. Every one of my officers, they really appreciate the public saying, hey, I have a weapon in the vehicle. That alleviates any surprises versus I have a weapon in the vehicle, I don't tell the officer, and I flip open my center console to get my registration out, and lo and behold, there's a gun. To me, that's a big surprise, and that is something we don't even want to go down that path. Exactly. The best thing I recommend is it's you're legal to carry that weapon, just let me know. Definitely. And that way I can move forward and we can take care of business and get you on your way.
And that was a good question. Thank you very much. We always do appreciate you guys looking out for our safety. Vern and Travis both have questions about tinted windows on vehicles. Can you just briefly describe what windows are allowed to be tinted and what are not?
Actually, the tinted windows generated kind of issues about a year ago. The way the tinted window law works is only the windows behind the driver and passenger shoulders in the front seat can be tinted. So as I tell people when I stop them, Everything behind you can be tinted. If you want to spray paint those windows black, as long as you have mirrors, you're good. Passenger side window in the front, driver side window, and windshield have to be clear like they came from the factory. That is not a debatable issue. I know that a lot of people say, well, the tint shop told me I'm allowed to have 5%, 10%, 30%. The law specifies no tint shall be applied to any of those three windows, 0. It doesn't allow for a percentage. There is a section of law that talks about percentage of the tint, but that is UV light. And all cars that come from factories already have that 30% UV protection built into the glass. So when you add another tint on top of it, you're actually darkening more the window. And people go, well, it's hot in the valley. It keeps my vehicle cool. And trust me, if I could have tinted windows, I would have them on all my cars. I fully understand how hot it gets here in the valley. But you can't have tint on the windows, not even the little bit of tint. The people that I stopped that have had their windows tinted, they said that the dealer or a tint shop has told them to go ahead and tint it. They've showed me the bill for $500 to $1,000 that they just had the windows tinted. Yeah. I write them the fix-it ticket and tell them to take the fix-it ticket and their bill back to the business and have them remove that tint because it was illegal to install that tint. We try not to give any leeway on it. We treat everybody the same. There's always a question that pops up of what if I have a doctor's note? That is a big question. Doctors can write a note that says you're allowed to have tint on a window, but that tint must be removable at nighttime. So when you take your car to a tint shop and you have them affix that black limo tint, it has to come off. It has to be removable. And people always ask me, well, what kind of tint is removable? And I tell them, well, if you go to Babies R Us and you know that little mesh shade that you pull down, I said, that's what they talk about as removable tint. Or that one that's a 12 by 12 jelly square that sticks onto your glass. You just peel it right off, that's removable. Okay. Other than that, you cannot have your windows tinted.
Okay. John had a municipal code question in regards to RVs and motorhomes. Let me answer that real quick. He asked how long you can park your motorhome or travel trailer at your home. John, it matters if it's on public or private property. In the city of Clovis, it's 24 hours. If you do see that there's a violation, again, you can easily contact us via the app and fill out a municipal code complaint, and then one of our community service officers will quickly address that with courtesy notices or abatement letters going as however far as they need to go in order to gain compliance. There was another question earlier about you had mentioned when juveniles, people under the age of 18, get cited for a helmet violation. It's not necessarily a monetary cite. Can you talk about what the Clovis Police Department's procedure is when maybe a high school or a middle school student gets cited? What steps we go through?
We have a very unique program here in Clovis where if your child is under the age 18, they receive a helmet citation, we don't send them to court. We have a class once a month we put on here. I used to teach a class, and it's now being taught by Officer Talafero. And it's strictly education. You show up, class runs about 90 minutes. The child shows up with his helmet and one parent, has to be at least one parent. They'll watch some videos. They'll learn a little bit about the laws that apply to bicycles, why you have to wear a helmet, how we're just not picking on you. It's strictly a safety issue. Once you attend the class, it goes down on a roster. We send that roster over to our youth services, where at that point we ask the citation that is sent to the court, we ask the court to go ahead and dismiss that citation because they attended this education class. So there is no fines, there is no fees, there's no penalties, there is nothing. Basically, it's an education.
And that's just not education about helmets, it's education about road safety laws, safety tips for bicyclists, and it's really informative. I've actually seen the PowerPoint.
We gear it to educate both the parent and the child, because there are some parents that come in that really did not have an idea that the bicycle laws were so broad and there were so many of them. A lot of the parents grew up like my father had taught me, was you were supposed to ride against traffic so you could see that car coming at you. Well, it turns out that was wrong. Those are the things we educate the parent and the child at the same time. So when the child rides out of the garage, he doesn't have a helmet on, the parent knows that. It's an education for everybody. That's how we treat it. It's not monetary, it's strictly education.
Okay. Do you want to close the session out by maybe giving a couple safety tips for back to school next week and what we're going to be doing in order to ensure the safety of the students for Clovis Unified?
Like I said, Clovis Unified has 31 schools in the city limits of Clovis. The speed is always an issue, but the trend we're seeing now is not so much speed, it's people on cell phones. So the biggest tip I can give people right now is when you're traveling through those school zones, or you're taking your kids to school or picking them up, put the phone down, put it in the center console, put it in your back pocket, put it in your purse, put it in the back seat, keep it anywhere but in your hand. Every year we have a student struck or a collision, and it's because the person was on their cell phone and they're not paying attention. And the way it works is if you have this to your ear or you have this in front of you, you're not paying attention to your speed, and pretty soon you're going 40 miles an hour in a school zone, traffic stops, or there's somebody in the crosswalk, or a child on a bicycle is legally crossing, and we have our tragedy. It happens year in, year out, and it never seems to subside. We do enforcement details that concentrate on that, and it's a never-ending war. And that's how I label it. It's a war, and it's a day-to-day issue that we just can't get a handle on it. We're trying our best. Please put your phones down. I know everybody has their apps and their work and stuff, but put your phone down for that 15-minute commute, for that 5 minutes you're in the school zone. If you want to have a conversation with your child. Find out how their day went or how their day is going to go, and then go from there. Pay attention to the school crossing guards. Every school has them out and about. This weather is going to transition from warm weather, and we're going to get into fog. And when you get into fog, you got to really slow down. Take your speed down to 15 miles per hour, please, and then use your headlights. Other than that, I wish all the parents out there and the kids for next week have a safe first week of school. Pay attention to what's going on. When you see my officers out there, wave at them. Wave at them, have a talk with them. They're not going to bite you. They're not going to yell at you. Engage us in a little bit of conversation. We enjoy it. If you see my officers stopping and taking a break and getting a soda, talk to them. We had a nice conversation with a gentleman earlier this week that ended up with him paying it forward, and he bought us breakfast. Those are the type of things that we pay forward later on. So our goal is to make sure every kid arrives home safely at the end of the school day, and to make sure that their parents also arrive home at the end of their work day.
Sounds good. Well, some very good information by our traffic supervisor, Corporal Weaver. For those who were wondering and maybe didn't ask, the Harley patrol bike behind us wasn't moved into the departments specifically for this. We have a display here with the evolution of our traffic officer helmets and the Harley Davidson that one of our reserve officer, Wilmette, used to ride. Please continue to ask us questions. Again, we thank you for viewing us live on Facebook and even after the fact. If we didn't get to your question, I do apologize. We're bombarded with questions, but we will take the time to answer every single one of them. Again, if you have any specific traffic complaints, questions, or comments, you can message us on Facebook or direct message us on Twitter. Contact us via the traffic hotline if it's not occurring at that time at 324-3400. Also, like Sergeant Monroe at the beginning of the video mentioned, please download the app. It's a great communication tool. We're at the tips of your fingers in the comfort of your own home to communicate with us, ask questions, get information, provide tips and whatnot. And we will see you guys at Clovis Night Out on Saturday, September 17th, starting at 3 p.m. over there at Temperance and Sierra at Miss Winkle's. Again, please continue to ask questions. We will get to them. Thanks for Clovis, and have a great night.